Greetings, brother, and Housebroker Donkey here. Terrible, terrible audio today because I'm in the hall room. Because there's not enough space to set this up in my bungalow. So we'll just have to deal with that. And I also have to sort of clamber around to be able to show you around. So this is my Gloomspite Gitz army that I just completed through my backlog buster project. I started painting these in 2018, so that was before the Gloomspite Gitz army book actually came out. When I started collecting them, they were, obviously they're night goblins, but in Age of Sigmar they were still called the Moon Clan Grots. And well, I've always really liked night goblins. They are basically, I mean, goblins in general are why I liked orcs and goblins back in Warhammer Fantasy battles. Personally, I'm not too fond of just orcs. I think orcs by themselves are a bit too straightforward and dull. I'm sure some people will disagree with me with there, but for me, it's the goblins that add the flavor. And so, I don't know, I looked at all the armies in Age of Sigmar and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna play Moon Clan Grots and I don't care if they're bad. And originally the plan was to use a bunch of alternate miniatures for squigs and maybe even make my own squigs. But then they announced that there was gonna be a new one, and a new army book, and so I just kept hoping and praying, and they actually released stuff that I really liked, so I kept up with it. But yeah, most of the well, not most of it, but a lot of the infantry was painted before the army book came out. So I started initially by painting these infantry goblins in 10s. So I picked out 10 from a unit and painted them, and then grabbed the next set of 10, which was very tedious and made me sick of these infantry goblins very quickly. The first thing I painted was 10 of these spearmen. Back then they had black hoods, just like these fanatics. And I think I painted another 10, and then I painted the fanatics. Then I also very early on painted this shaman. Let's see if I can... It's basically what I did initially when I started is I just bought a bunch of the figures from the original Skull Pass box, because since there was no army for this at the time, or no army book at least, they weren't that popular yet. So a lot of the Skull Pass stuff was actually really cheap still. Now it's really expensive, and I definitely wouldn't buy it anymore now, because, yeah, but I bought a bunch of that, and then added a few boxes of the multi-part grots, which is where I got all the netters from. I also was cheeky and made some prints with Oyumaru of the nets, and made some extra netters that I was missing. What came next? Oh yeah, one that I also painted very early on was the fungoid cave shaman, and I painted him, well, as best as I could at the time. I think I could probably do a better job with him now. He's kind of a dusty. That's better. I think I could do a better job now, but at the time this was sort of the best painting I could muster, and I think I did it for some kind of painting contest. And this was the first new miniature that came out for the range during the Soul Wars preamble, I think. What was it called? I don't know, but it had 4 characters. It had one for the Stormcast Eternals, this one. It had one for the Slaves to Darkness, the Dark Oath War Queen. And it had the first Knight of Shrouds. So it was like this sort of, you know, ooh, we're going to release something new. And then 2nd edition came with the Night Haunt and everything. Also, very early on, I painted squigs, because squigs have always been my favorite. I think these, the red ones and the green ones here in this squig herd, are the ones I painted first. And my plan originally was to use 4 different colors, namely all the colors you see in the squigs. The sort of teal green, the red, the orange, and the purple. And then to repeat that over the whole army. But as I, started incorporating the colors into the other units, especially when I decided that I was going to do sort of mushroom hats for the infantry goblins. I don't know if you can even see that this is purple, but this is purple. There's a purple hood. I don't know, this purple doesn't really show well on the camera, at least in the preview. I don't know, I should probably watch some of my own videos to see that, but as you can see, these have the red hoods, and then the archers, you've already seen, they have the light blue hoods. And yeah, originally it was supposed to be just these 4 colors from the squigs repeated, but I very quickly realized I'd run out of colors, because when I did these, the Boingrod Bounders, I gave them the teal green hoods, and that basically meant I had no more hood color for the archers, and I wanted to have a different one. And I first thought maybe I'd do the red hoods, because I'm not really ever using these as their own unit. They usually just slot into this big unit of spearmen as sort of the first casualties I remove. I figured out I'd use a new set of colors, and originally the plan was to just get more stuff, to get a second squig herd basically, and then have all the other new colors represented there. But I don't know if I'm ever going to do that, because I'm really kind of sick of the army now. So I don't know if that's actually ever going to happen. But if it were to happen, there would be bright blue squigs, baby blue squigs. There would be... where else did I incorporate the new colors? There would be... wait. Oh yeah, there would be pink squigs, much like his moon. Bright green. I don't think I've even used that anywhere yet. Yeah, bright green and yellow. So the other squig unit would be incredibly neon, but I'm okay with that. What else? Oh yeah, then we have, of course, probably my favorite model in the new range, the new Mangler Squig. In this case, I built it as a Loon Boss on Mangler Squig, with the lovely banana helmet. And I love this model. I think it's fantastic. It's definitely one of the better models that Games Workshop has made for Age of Sigmar, in my opinion. And the reason for that is mostly because I'm not usually a fan of the... like, a lot of the new Age of Sigmar stuff doesn't actually appeal to me. It's very much over-designed, in my opinion, and I think this is like the epitome of taking a simple design, because there really isn't that much detail to it if you really look at it. You know, you have the 2 big squigs, you have a bunch of leather straps and a bunch of metal chains and plates and boulders on ropes, and then you have the riders, and that's really all there is to it. And there's not any detail that doesn't have to be there. And I think with a lot of the other new models, that is definitely a very common problem that makes me not like them. For example, I don't like the new elves very much. I think there is a good design at the base of them, but there is a lot of extra detail just laden onto them that does not have to be there and just makes them worse. Right, this is also the other thing I wanted to show off. The 2 different kinds of squig hoppers. So they both have the orange hoods, but the first unit had the dark teal squigs, and the second unit has the purple squigs. And that way I can sort of keep them apart, because I prefer the squig hoppers in units of 5 in the game. I don't think they work as well with big units, because, I mean, their whole point is not getting stuck into melee right away and jumping over things to cause mortal wounds. And that's much easier to achieve when you have a small unit and can, use them in different parts of the battlefield. And it also gives you extra mobility, which is kind of good with this army, because this is actually a very static and defensive army, which is also kind of what I don't like about the playstyle. If I were to completely build this army from the ground up, I would basically only keep all the squig units, the archer units, and all of this would basically go away. Because I just don't like the infantry goblin playstyle at all. It's way too static and defensive for my taste. I like, fast and furious and in-your-face kind of playstyles in fantasy games. Oh yeah, and then of course the centerpiece that you've probably already looked at. This is my completely scratch-built Rogue Idol. And that's not just because the original Rogue Idol is a Forge World model that costs a fortune. I don't actually know how much it costs, probably 150 euros or something stupid like that. It's also that I think... Well, first of all, I think the Rogue Idol is very overpriced because it's really just a bunch of rocks glued together and anyone can do that. I don't need Forge World to make that model for me. You know, when they make Warlord Titans and stuff like that, at least I can say, okay, that's, you know, that's significant. But just a bunch of rocks with arms, don't really dig it. But more importantly, I think the original Rogue Idol is way too orky and it doesn't really fit with the Night Goblin aesthetic. So I wanted something that looked a bit more sort of spooky and gangly and fit in with what I was doing with the army. And so I came up with my own build. And this is a wire frame with milliput to sturdy it up. And then most of these rocks are XPS foam, but there are also milliput rocks to give it some different textures. Then there's logs for one of the legs and one of the arms with sort of mushrooms on them, as you can see. I added some vines from Games Workshop's own vine kit. There's a lot of skulls embedded in him. A lot of my moss thing that I like to do. Did a bit of an elaborate base with a bunch of mushrooms. It's also the wrong base, actually, for the Rogue Idol. I only figured that out after, that it's not actually on a big round base, but an elliptical one. And here you can still see where the wire frame, I put it through the base and glued it to the bottom. So it's a very sturdy model. It's also kind of heavy for the fact that it's mostly XPS foam. Oh yeah, and the head I sculpted completely from milliput and then green stuff. And then I painted the thing. I didn't go like super crazy in depth with the detail on it in terms of sculpting. I just wanted something that looks cool and fits in with the army, and I think I achieved that. Yeah, I like it. And I think it fits better than the original Rogue Idol ever would have. I did also already show you these two endless spells. There's two other endless spells. There's this one with the spiders, and I really just, this is like two paints and then a wash. I don't even think it's dry brushed. I couldn't be bothered with this one. I don't actually like this model very much. It's very cheap and very Chinese, and I couldn't be bothered to invest a lot of time in it. This one, however, I really liked. So I spent some more time giving it a nice gradient on the smoke and highlighting out the moon. I really enjoy this one. Right, what else haven't I shown you? I think I've shown you most everything. There's of course a little bagpiper cheering on the squig herd. So from my gameplay experience with this army, I definitely, if I was going to expand it, which again I'm not sure that I actually will. If I will, it's probably going to be tied in with whenever this army gets a new army book. As far as I understand it, we're going to get a new edition this year, so sometime in June probably, or July. And I would think that Gloomspite Gitz aren't exactly one of the first armies that get a new book, but I would guess that they are among the first. So they're definitely going to be in the first half, I think, because it's just a very popular army. So I think it's in their best interest to bring the army book out pretty soon. When that happens, there is certainly the possibility that I'll get some more stuff for it. As I said, I would love to have a second squig herd just for gameplay sake, because I really enjoy how they play instead of the... because they basically fulfill the same role as the infantry with spears and hand weapons. They are not quite as defensive though, so they kind of fulfill the same role, but they can move forward better. They're not as static, they're not as defensive, they do more damage, and I much prefer that. But in terms of sturdiness, they're pretty much the same. So if you play them right and give them the automatic passing of morale checks, then they stay around for a long time, and I really appreciate them as a unit. The Squig Hoppers are all great. The Boingrab Bounders are fantastic. All the Squig units are really cool, and I would love to have more of them. But that would also mean painting more of them. So yeah, also trolls. I would love to have a bunch of trolls, but again, for now, this is. Oh yeah, I didn't actually show off the terrain piece. Oh, careful. So this is the standard terrain piece. As you can see, it's more China plastic. Yeah, it's the standard terrain piece. There's a few bits that I didn't put on, like there's these cages with skeletons in them. I thought they were a bit too much and a bit gaudy, and I was sure I'd break them off at some point anyway, so I just left them off. Originally, the art has this as gray. I think it's a much better idea to have the big moon in yellow, because it just, it's the bad moon. Why wouldn't it be yellow? And I went nuts with all the mushrooms on it. And I love it. It just makes a really good centerpiece, because my army is already so colorful that, well, the main terrain piece has to be super colorful as well, right? Like, what would be the point of this army if it wasn't entirely, completely over the top in terms of color? Because, I mean, that's what I went for. I guess I didn't show you the Fanatics up close. They are the old Fanatics. The old plastic Fanatics, I should say. And they are terrible. I really hate these miniatures. They are from the era of plastic miniatures where I believe personally that Games Workshop didn't give a damn and just made really ugly miniatures for a while. Sort of the early 2000s. There was a period when it just felt like they couldn't be bothered, and pretty much everything they released was just kind of rubbish. And I don't know, that's definitely all the kits as well that did not hold up. And when you look at them now, they're like, ooh, wow, they ever made this stuff? So yeah. I didn't buy any new Fanatics because, as I said, to really make them work, you need the infantry goblins, and I hate the infantry goblins playstyle. So the 5 Fanatics that I have are fine because I can still use them with the archer units, even if I don't use the melee infantry. Alright. That's pretty much all there is to this army. The video is already getting pretty long, so I think I'll cut it here. I didn't show you again the stuff that I did in the first 3 episodes of Project Backlog Buster. You can go there to check out that stuff in close-ups if you want, if you haven't seen that yet. But in terms of the whole army, I'm pretty happy with the final effect. I think it looks really, really good. It's very colorful, of course, but that's kind of the point. I wanted it to be just a very, very obnoxious, in-your-face sort of thing. Oh yeah, someone in the comments asked me how I did the basing on these. I will also still say that in the next Backlog Buster video, because then it's just in 2 places, and I hope you end up seeing it. Basically what I did is I primed the base gray, sort of a mid-gray. Originally, I just went from the standard uniform gray primer that I primed most of these in. And then I wash it directly with Druchii Violet from Citadel, the Citadel shade. And then I dry brush it with Slanesh Gray, also Citadel. And then I give it a really light dry brush of Ulthuan Gray. And it gives this sort of gray with a purple undertone. And I really enjoy that as sort of a cave thing. And the tufts are just regular tufts, whatever I had at the time. I think, I don't know, these may be moss tufts. I'm not sure, because I just used whatever I had, and then I painted them, painted them with a brush, just smushed the paint into the tuft with Sybarite green, and then because that kind of hardens the tuft, I don't know if you can see that, but it doesn't move very much when you press on it with your finger. So afterwards, I dry brush it with Baharoth green, which gives it that sort of very strange... I call it glow grass, which isn't the real thing, but I imagine it glows. You know, it's a glowing grass that grows in a cave. I don't know, that's just what I came up with, and I think looks cool, and it works with the sort of purplishness of the base. and gives it that sort of teal thing. And it just makes the army even more colorful, which is great, because I just want to vomit color all over the table with these guys. And then do a bunch of silly squig nonsense and drink a beer and go back home. Because that's how I like to play Age of Sigmar. Because I can't take that game serious at all. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope the sound with the reverb in here isn't too bad. It's definitely not as good as it is in my usual abode, where I film all the other stuff, because that room is nicely balanced. Yeah, but that's all I have to show you. Alright, video is 20 minutes long, time for me to check out. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little army look of my Gloomspite Gitz. I'll do some zoom in. Won't turn if I don't do this. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And stick around for more videos. Next, I'll be looking at my Oathmark Goblins. I've already made the start on them, so there should be a video about them in hopefully a week. I don't know if that's enough for me to actually finish them, but I'll definitely try to make a video even if they're not entirely finished and just show you the progress. Because, yeah, I just kind of want to get into a rhythm of maybe making a video a week. I think that's reasonable. All right, thanks for checking it out, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, bye-bye.